The Tularosa Basin Museum of History in Alamogordo unveiled the Miami Street Experience exhibit, which honors the legacy of the city's historic black neighborhood. The display highlights families, community life, and achievements, including local leaders and graduates. We're on the telephone with Mayor Pro Tem Sharon McDonald, who had a bit of a hand in this. Is that right, Sharon?
I did, along with a couple of other people who grew up and, just kind of gave us more information because we didn't trust everything that we knew. We wanted some verification. So yes, Cherie was part of it, and I am so grateful to her, along with Shirley Satcher Harvey, Deborah Holloway Smith, and Kelvin Holly. We didn't have to add another name to him. And then Margaret Lee Avery. So yes, we had a couple of people who added to that information. So we were really grateful. I'd also like to say, I didn't say it on Saturday for the unveiling, but I really want to thank Linda Kemp, who was at the Tularosa Basin Historical Society, who actually gave the thumbs up, Joe and Deb Lewandowski, and just the entire museum, because they didn't have to put it up, but they thought it was newsworthy. So I'm very grateful for them considering the information and actually saying it was noteworthy.
So tell me a little bit about this experience here, the Miami Street Experience. What are people going to experience when they see this exhibit?
Well, even though it was a small community, and I was going to say there's, 17 houses on the block, and we function individually, but yet and still we function as a family. When you see two parents for the homes, you see people going to work in the morning, mothers either working or staying at home with the children. But the mothers that stayed at home, they were like, I'm not going to say watchdogs, but they were watchers of everybody's children. And so if we got out of line, there was going to be a report that evening, because they weren't intimidated by, the kids or saying, oh, I don't want to get involved. They were involved. They invested in us. And so some of the things that we actually put on the board, it was people we knew from back in the day who actually were they were just, they were actually giving something to us that we could take on. And that was excellent. We had a person on our block. I knew she was educated, but I didn't find out she had a PhD until later. And the fact that you were encouraged to go on to college, it wasn't even a thought. We just said every time we open our mouth, yes, we're going on to college and we're going to get our degree and we're going to come back and make a difference. And whether we stayed in Alamogordo or went on to some other place, we were actually functioning at a level where we could add to the economic part of society, and also to, just being citizens that knew what, needed to be done because they were raised that way.
It's exciting to hear the fact that it was a neighborhood. It was the old-fashioned neighborhood where the people, the adults, they were kind of everyone's parents from time to time, per se. You got out of line. Yep, your mom and dad were going to find out, but also give you some encouragement. So I think that's kind of cool. That's neat. And the fact that you're honoring it and paying homage to that neighborhood is just wonderful.
Well, I had one, in fact, this is Cherie's sister. She came in to help out with their mom, and so she tells a story every time she comes here. And so I get a chuckle out of it, that she was talking about the time that a group of teenagers, and they were in high school. I'm not going to name them all. I'm not going to even name her. But they had decided that they were going to take somebody's car and go across the border. Yes, across the border to Juarez. And so my dad was at the station where they were filling up and they were talking and stuff like that. So, of course, the story went back to her dad. And so when they got over there, they couldn't believe that the parents were already there waiting for them. So she said she was on restriction for some time. And I just laughed because there were no hard feelings. I think she looked out the window and she says, she saw my dad. She says, what is he doing here? So her dad met her at the border and escorted her back to Alamogordo with her friends. And so they all got in trouble, and nobody hated my dad or anything like that. He was just doing his duty. So you can see how people went one step beyond. It's not like saying, oh, that's not my kid, I don't care. The information was passed, and it was passed in a timely manner. So they were greeted at the Mexican borderline and escorted right back to Alamogordo. No harm done.
But lessons were learned.
Yes. Yes. And so I think that it was, the parents were participating with every situation, if it was as a student, church, or just, being a participant in some extracurricular activity. We were at least given lessons in government, everything that was going on, what you needed to do or courses you needed to take in order to get in college. I guess anybody that was running for office, it was always stated that you need to know what the person is representing. Are they running to benefit you or not? And, we actually had some type of communication with some of the local, government too, because I remember my mom had a coin collection, and I think he was a commissioner at the time, Mr. Mershon. He would always want to see what type of coins my mom had in her collection, and he was always trying to get, not a one-up, but he wanted to know what she had and if it had any value so he could get it too. So there's so many stories. I think we can tell a different story every time we talk about this because they really poured into us. And I'm not talking about just church or, just activities. They wanted you to be the best that you could be, training you to be a lady. I was a tomboy, and so I fought against anything that was girly. And so I think Mrs. Harris, when she was in her 90s, she came up to me. I was at church one Sunday visiting, and she said, "And you're Sharon Roberts?" And so she just thought it was so odd. She said, "It's almost like you fought me every step of the way, and now I'm wearing a dress. I'm not in jeans and a T-shirt and a baseball cap on my head with a bat and a ball in my hand ready to go play softball or something." But I think she was just really happy to see that I did turn out okay. So it was good.
That's fantastic. A free Night at the Museum event with storytelling, music, ice cream, and a scavenger hunt is coming up this Saturday from 5 until 8. Can you tell me about that?
I can tell you a little bit about it because they have been announcing it. This is another way to get people to come into the museum to look over what's been done. I just wanted to say, until I got involved with the Historical Society, I didn't realize how much history they actually cover. It's not just the olden days or the cowboy days or, the history that we have today, but they cover everything, the railroad and exactly how that affected this area. They talk about the people who invested in this community, how it looked back in the early days and things like that. So I think what they're trying to do is just get the word out that this is a place of history and anything that you need, even, for students who are looking to do a paper, there's enough information to probably get them into college and beyond because there's so much history that's going on in that museum. And, of course, our Dudley Community Center and Park, of course, a lot of that information is there too. And so it will have, just all the type of information you'd want to know about the school, the teachers, just anything that, can be placed in that area to give you the history is really going to be vital to our community. And I think they're just trying to get people to come in so they can see exactly what they have. And I want to say the museum is a wonderful place to visit.
We're on the telephone with Mayor Pro Tem Sharon McDonald. Sharon, before I let you go, is there anything else you want to share with us?
I would like to say is that thank goodness that we have a place where we can gather our history and share it with anybody that comes in. I said even people who want to come back and find out exactly, what part did we play in there, because we're looking to gather everybody's history. It's not just what happened years ago, and it's not just what I'm talking about today with the legacy. The museum is actually wanting to get all the information in our community and store it so they can share it with the city of Alamogordo and people who are coming out of town.